Ready for some wonderful women to go racing. Ready for one of the most astonishing atmospheres in league racing to make its rampant return. Because we are so back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to W1 Sim Series. Welcome to what is not a traditional league racing conventional kind of series. But we're going to do a social race. We're going to make it nice and chilled out, composed, relaxed, and more to the point, you're all here to join us on that journey. A very warm welcome to each and every one of you. I know it has been a minute, but we are very back. And needless to say, I have got one of the very best in the business alongside me tonight. Of course, it had to be one of the Toms. If it wasn't going to be Tom Knight, it had to be Tom Wilkinson. Tom, welcome in, my friend. We're back. W1, social race, and what a venue we've got tonight.
Only good vibes. That's the only prerogative that we're standing for. Fun only. The racing's going to be action-packed, as it always is at Spa, since it got updated a couple of years ago on F124, I think it might have been. So much better circuit, much better racing. I'm really looking forward to this one. You've got a Tom, you've got the second best Tom in the commentary crew, which I think is adequate enough.
I couldn't agree more. I'd say that's more than adequate, my friend. Pick yourself up a little bit more. But like you say, Spa-Francorchamps, what a track it is. And more to the point, I believe qualifying is just around the corner. Before we head off into that particular escapade, though, let's have a look at our lineup for tonight, because I feel like that's a good way to list some names that might be familiar, but also some cutthroat challengers in the W1 scene. On the left-hand side, I will list, we have the Alpines of Catherine Thiel-King, a cutthroat challenger for the championship. Didn't quite materialise, but we know just how rampant her race pace is. Alongside Melissa Muller, Heather and Vanessa Hostetler don the green lean machine of Aston Martin, with Alexis Mason alongside Scuderia Ferrari HP Esports signed driver of Miss Nutrix. Regan Boylan and Katie Grafton are in the Haas, the American Dream, and then it's Miyuki Panda and Jazz Luna making her debut in W1 in the McLaren. Tom, why don't you take us through the right-hand side?
I will. And what we love to see is we've got a mix of new names, familiar names, but a lot of them in different scenery, in different colours as well. Elite and Esme Chambers piloting the Silver Arrows, Lily Browling and Vanessa Schaaf in the Racing Bulls, Angel Kirby and Jess Ball once again in the Red Bull, Alicia Hofflack and Elizabeth in the Sauber, and then Lady Milligan and Lauren Nodding in that beautiful Williams car.
What a team. What an amazing team. And you know what? We even get to see them in the flesh. Out on track. We are here for qualifying. Back like we never left. And who is going to shine and spark the brightest in Spa? That is a question that we will answer in a few minutes' time. Of course, quite a long lap. The longest lap on the calendar. Spa-Francorchamps, just over 7 kilometres worth of wonderful racetrack. But that means drivers can't play around in qualifying. If they do make mistakes, unlike most of the other tracks, they haven't got that time or that safety blanket to try and regain their confidence or try and save up for another lap, because that is the brutality of this Belgian Grand Prix track.
Yeah, it's not quite as severe as it was maybe a few years ago when it was really touch and go if you could get 3 runs in. Without any kind of dramas and maladies, you should be all right. But yeah, you don't want to play with fire. You don't want to play with that limited margin of error that you do have. And we're already, look, 2 and a bit minutes into the session. We've only just got people starting a flying lap. So you are up against it time-wise.
You are indeed, and more to the point as well. We've got that wonderful Williams on the screen. Donned in the gamer tag HRT Lando, but it is Raccoons Gaming, Alexis Mason, who's going to be probably the first to really throw maximum attack onto Spa-Francorchamps, of course, absolutely flat out through Eau Rouge and through Radion onto the Kemmel Straight. Maximum flappage. It feels like a while since I've said that particular phrase, but all the way down towards that Les Combes chicane. Brake towards the 50-meter board. Attack the curbs, right and then to the left. Get your car poised over it, and then you hold it flat out through Malmedy corner. The tricky braking zone of the next right-hander cannot be overstated how tricky it is. You want to hold that narrow line, minimize the distance, and set yourself up for the left, which Alexis Mason does very well indeed.
And then a beautiful corner that we all absolutely love. Poo on, throw it in. Maximum attack, even this early in the qualifying session, leaving nothing to turn, hoping that the back of the car complies with what you're asking it to do. And then the Fagnier chicane. It's quite clumsy, isn't it? Really awkward couple of corners to get the car through. Big boatload of understeer, especially on F125. And then you're into the final set, which the first half bit fairly straightforward through Corporal Frere, and then Blanchimont as well, which is not quite as star-striking as it was maybe 20 years ago. But the bus stop, there is a lot of margin for error, especially on the braking and the over-rotation through the second part of that chicane.
We'll see. Stanza number 1 of the bus stop chicane. Will they be right on schedule, or will it be an apex miss? No, it is not. It is 1 and 2, right and then left. It is two absolutely brilliant corners as the Mercedes goes fastest and quickly taken by Alexis Mason, a 141.834, as many others look to lay down the gauntlet here at Spa-Francorchamps, as we have Lily bowling. Hopefully there's not that kind of bowling out on the circuit tonight, but donning the Visa Cash App RB colours. Their teammate is currently sat in P2. Nessa with a 142.2. They've gone straight out of the gate, but then so does this woman. Catherine Thielking, championship challenger, saving all the way through the bus stop chicane. Maybe some time on the table, getting caught up in some dirty air. Not that much though, clearly. Just under 2 tenths behind Raccoons Gaming, and the battle for pole already looking very spicy indeed. Aliti with a 145.9. We've got Hevar crossing the line, who, well, let's be honest, the weather has come to play absolutely beautifully, and she's laid down the mark R of 1 minute 46.8 as another driver moves up the order. Melissa Muller into P5, Jessica Ball into P6. Everybody just gaining the confidence here and there, but they have got the time to do that. Belgium, probably, despite how long the lap is, I'd argue quite a forgiving track, as Elizabeth moves into P11.
Yeah, it's interesting when you talk about this is a circuit, because I would agree when you say it is quite forgiving. There is a decent margin for error, especially with the track limits. We shouldn't be seeing too many invalidations unless you're really pushing it through this corner, for example, that double left-hander, the double gosh of Pouon in the middle sector. But you can try and really attack the curves because a lot of them are flat. They're not the traditional sausage curves. If you ignore the exit of La Source at the end, or at the start of the lap, I should say, which on lap 1, that could be very interesting when we're potentially barreling down 3 or even 4 wide into quite the pinch point of the first braking zone.
Couldn't agree more with you. Angel Kirby, meanwhile, a woman that's on the move and in the groove. A new challenger has entered the arena as they blast through Blanchimont for the first time in their qualifying crusade. And then once again, it is that bus stop chicane. There are its tricky bits that come with Spa-Francorchamps. There are those tricky bits that even don themselves on F125. And it is going to be a retreat to the pit lane. Still a decent amount of reconnaissance. Only one driver yet to have done a lap. We're usually used to seeing some staggering about, some mind games being played. No, they've missed the racing so much. They all just want to get out there, bite the tyres into the bitumen, blast on through and set that all-important first lap time. Get it on the board, because they have missed this so dearly, I can imagine.
It's all about rhythm. It's about sharpness. It's about flow, especially at a circuit like this. If you're undercut going into it, you're just not feeling it, and then you don't get the full flow of Spa. And it's a circuit where, when you are on the ball and on the money, one of the best, undisputably one of the best to try and drive and attack, because when you're on maximum attack and you can trust exactly, and you know exactly what the car's doing under you, there's not many better places.
Vanessa Hostetler on an out lap, like we say, the only driver so far to have not attempted a flying lap, but even so, they have got the luxury of a completely clear track for the most part ahead of them. And that's all they ever need. You just need that confidence, like you say, to run that rhythm, not have any disruptions, no syncopation around here. There's a little weave for the showboating, just to get those tyres all the way up to the correct temperature window. As we are about, I would love to tell you how much time's been in this qualifying session, but unfortunately, the flags, there you go, 10.5 minutes to go, we're approaching the fulcrum point, and Alexis Mason has the pole advantage by just under 2 tenths of a second. Rather interesting as we look down, Regan Boylan. Do you know what? Plaudits for Regan Boylan. The rustic bone, nothing ancient about that particular lap time. They have already been on it from the word go, with a 1 minute 44.4 into P7, firmly stapled into the top 10. But what can Vanessa Hostetler do? Through La Source they go, looks composed. Weirdly, La Source, I'd argue, is a really tricky corner. So easy to lock up the brakes and spoon it wide, or lock up the rear brakes, over-rotate the car, and then you compromise your momentum mid-corner. It's such a tricky balancing act, but it all sets you up for this next section here.
Yeah, and the lock in the rears, that's the big problem, because with the way that the handling model, we know how it works on F125, got to hustle the car, got to be really aggressive on the nose, and when you throw the car in and crank on that steering lock, when you're braking as well, that's what causes the rears to lock. You don't have control over the car, and then like you said, it's like pulling the handbrake on, effectively looping the car around with the weight and the momentum once you start going in these cars. Very, very difficult to try and recover it. Been a decent middle sector though so far for Vanessa, looking fairly hooked up. You would expect the times to be quite separated, with this being one of the longest tracks and one of the more technical circuits on the calendar as well. But we're getting nice little clusters of drivers just grouping together and forming some nice little packs. It'll be interesting to see how that dynamic continues to unfold as the rest of the qualifying session continues.
Couldn't agree more with you. We're seeing gradually more and more congested packs as more drivers get close and personal with one another in terms of the qualifying times. Of course, this is only one part of the equation, as we see Curious Fire, Zara Shahsavari in the Twitch chat. Hello, Zara. Hope you're doing well. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope you're all excited to be back. There couldn't be a better place, almost, to go back racing. The longest circuit by distance on the F1 calendar in terms of lap time. One of the most iconic, the most historic. Sometimes, even depending on the corner, one of the most technical and challenging, as Vanessa Hostetler rounds the final corner into P13, and it is an all-green machine, whatever row that is. 7th row. My maths just eluded me for a second, but the front runners are also on the move and in the groove. Ace of Hearts tangoing round the left-hander, and that was some shine and sparkle from the Silver Arrow. Do they dare lift for Puon? Absolutely not. It's a weird paradox I'm kind of seeing at the moment, Tom, in terms of you want to turn as late as you can. You trust the grip of the car. So, particularly with F1 25, you trust it so much. But then that becomes the problem as well. Psychologically, you have this battle with yourself where you turn in later than you need to. You scrub off more speed than you need to. As half a second up, that's a purple middle sector. No such problems for the Ace of Hearts.
And a lovely slipstream here, potentially up towards Blanchimont. Could we be dipping our toes? The second drive to do so. In the 141s, perhaps getting out of the way goes the white ball there. I think it's Jess Ball just on the run through Blanchimont. Got to get it right, though. You can lose so much time through the bus stop if you just misunderstand and make too many corrections with the loud pedal. We do find improvement. It's not actually a personal best in the final sector, but getting into the ballpark with that 42.2. But the top three all out there, and that is half a second up for the provisional pole sitter.
Ominous omens being laid down by a multiple podium dweller, of course, in Raccoons Gaming last season. In Season 1 of W1, who knows what they could bring to the forefront in Season number 2, when that so arises. Different cars, different philosophy, no problems in pace. 141.615. Now Catherine Thielking has to try and respond to that. It's all-out psychological warfare between the two of them. Raccoons lays down the artillery battery. How much ammunition is in the barrel of Catherine Thielking? Oh, there's plentiful! 14 thousandths of a second to separate the two, duking it out for provisional pole position, and it's getting very, very tasty already. A scintillating spectacle in Spa.
Over 7 kilometres, and we're separated by 14 milliseconds. I think both drivers have a little bit of time left to find. Thielking may be leaving some in her back pocket in the middle sector, and Raccoons lost a lot of time, was a quarter of a second down on her personal best going through the final set, so we could be getting even further into the 41s and maybe putting a little bit more distance between themselves and the group behind. Good middle sector for Jess Ball as well, maybe though slightly distracted by the Sauber that took to the gravel there to get out of the way on the exit of the Fanier chicane.
Just got Blanchimont and the bus stop chicane to do. I guess that's, again, another psychological demon that's whispering on your shoulder because you gain all that time in the first two sectors, then you don't want to throw it away. So you end up just being a little bit more cautious than you need to, and you just throw away all of that time that you mustered up as Jessica Ball crosses the line, does usurp Melissa Muller for now. It's an all-red Bull. Third row on the grid. Angel Kirby, by the way. New challenger has entered the arena. It's a mighty final smash. Is they're into P6 because Melissa Muller has immediately usurped both the red bulls, or white bulls, depending on your perspective. 143.278. It's looking rather lucrative for the Enstone outfit.
And we could be getting even more contenders right at the sharp end because Vanessa Sharp didn't find an improvement on their second final lap. You can see they're invalidated as well. So not going to be going again on this occasion. So we said that we thought the gaps would be relatively large. Yes, it's 0.4 per second from first down into third, but I think there's still quite a lot of time on the table for a number of drivers out there. And that's what we like to see on the ragged edge, on that knife edge of grip and confidence right at the end of qualifying when you're leaving nothing to chance and leaving absolutely nothing on the table.
Exactly. Def Not Jazz. Jazz Luna going through Blanchimont corner in that Papaya Pro car. Pedal flat to the floor. Invalidates it on the exit though. Just tried to carry all the momentum possible. And that is the price you can pay. She'll complete the lap anyway to figure out what it could have been. Perhaps wanted to recharge as well, to be honest with you. As she goes again, it's a 148.7. Not a million miles off what she was doing before. As Alicia Hoflack just exploring the Belgian scenery. And I don't blame her. The Ardennes Forest is absolutely sumptuous to look at. In terms of the battle for pole position, I will also say The pole position time, season number 1 here at Belgium, was from our driver's champion, Lee Woodward. She set a 1:41, as again, Alicia Hoflack goes for a trip into the sandbox, but it was a 1:41.597. Just 4 thousandths in it for Catherine Thielking, and that pole position time could well be blitzed here tonight.
And we need to look at how close it was in said qualifying session as well. Closest top 3 throughout the entirety of the season. Just 24 milliseconds separating Woodward, Emma Clay and Alexia Mason as well. And that just shows us when you can get it hooked up, when all the drivers are just feeling really confident, oozing confidence around this circuit, we do get some really competitive times at the sharp end. Not that we haven't got them already, of course, with Thielking and Raccoons there and Mason. Really leaning on the car, especially in that middle sector, despite both of them, like we said a couple of times, still having a little bit of time on the table as we get to what is, of course, the business end of the session.
All we do, the final countdown is on. And I don't want to be sued for copyright, so I'll quickly retract that statement. But Def Not Jazz is going for another lap. And it might say Def Not Jazz, but it definitely is Jazz. And she could set a blazing lap time with that particular number in the gamer tag. But blaze the ERS. That's the main goal. Let all the car extrapolate its pace. She might well have ran out of fuel, to be fair. I'm just assessing the speed of the car, or whether she's just backed off, which is completely fair as well. But it is a long lap round Spa-Francorchamps. It does burn more fuel than you think, of course, by extension. So it could be a retreat to the pit lane for the McLaren. And Aston coming in behind. It's not going to be on a lap because that is Vanessa Hostetler. So a retreat to the pit lane for the Papaya Pro as Stark Loki, only burdened by glorious purpose, hoping for a time to marvel at as we head just under 2.5 minutes to go.
And we have to return to the conversation about this very corner last source, because you might think, oh, okay, it's just one corner, we get through it and then we're done. But no, if you get a bad exit, you're leaking time all the way up through the rundown and up the hill again through Rouge and Radion, then the whole way down the Kemmel Straight as well. That's 30 seconds of foot being buried into the floor of these cars that you're leaking time because you haven't maximised the run through La Source. Understated sometimes how critical that corner is. We'll see what the delta is as we cut the beam to move into the middle sector. Already a quarter of a second found.
Good start there from Vanessa Hostetler. There's a lot of time to be found, of course, around the Belgian Grand Prix. It's all about momentum, like we have alluded to so many times. The tricky downhill braking zone. Switch it down to third gear. Try and pinch the nose in. The car sort of complaining a little bit at the exit phase of the corner, but the left-hander looked completely compliant, which is great news. And now that lean green machine will not be absolutely shaking itself to pieces, because we're here in W1 and we don't make cars like that round here. Holding the inside line as much as possible. It's a battle between minimising distance and maximising momentum through that chicane, the one that Tom said was such a tricky one to try and get right, and absolutely is. As the snail next door says, let's go Kath. Do you know how long she's been charging that message up? For the best part of probably about a month. So it's a good thing that she has managed to get that through.
And look on the track map there, just coming into the final sector. A little bit of traffic starting to form. Obviously, you don't want to be too close to the car in front. You might get an advantage in sector 1 with the slipstream. Then you're going to be losing a lot of time with the dirty air in the middle sector. So a couple of drivers may be up against it to make sure they get round in time. That's deep into the bus stop there, though, for Vanessa. That's going to horrible run through the final part of it. A little bit wide as well over the curve, trying to compensate. We still find half a second, but it's still only P15. We're Thielking out on the run at the moment. I'm going to try and jump on board with the provisional pole sitter. Is up in the first sector by a third of a tenth. Do we find time in the middle? No, we lose it, but still marginally up on the personal best.
Could be something to find in the bus stop while all that was happening. Firstly, Katie Grafton moves to P9. Miyuki Panda with a scorching time moves up to P8, so a cracking lap time from the McLaren Maestro. But it all comes down to this. 2 thousandths, a hair's breadth worth of improvement. Can they absolutely send it smashing out the park through the bus stop? That's the big question. We will have the answers. Catherine Thielking to the line. Oh, yes! A meteoric final sector. A 1:41.494. But here's the agonising part. The rest of our top 3, they've hardly started the lap. They've got the best of the track. So pole position could still change hands in a minute and a half's time.
This is a long old wait. Long old wait for Thielking. You see the McLaren in the background there, but it is the Racing Bulls car of Vanessa that we must focus on playing with fire. They're very lucky not to invalidate over the curbs through Pouon, because that looked a little bit sketchy. Really leaning on that Racing Bulls car. We'll have to wait to see what the delta is. Ace of Hearts in the pit, so it won't be the Mercedes jumping onto the front row to challenge Thielking. We've still got Alexis Mason out there as well. Hassoff into the pickets. 2 tenths per second. Need to find a little bit more in this final sector.
Well, we've seen one person absolutely blitz the bus stop already. Could we make it 3 for 3? Could it be that all-important holy hat trick? Well, we'll find out because someone might have to call the exorcist because it could get very ugly very quickly. As Vanessa heads through the bus stop chicane, pinches the first apex. It's so tricky to tell from the outboard. If they've got the momentum completely hooked up, Vanessa moves across the line into the 41s, but it will be no higher than P3 on the grid. What can Alexis Mason do? They were a 10th down, according to the Delta. It's going to have to be the bus stop chicane of a lifetime to try and secure pole position. Do they get it? Yes! Alexis Mason! 800ths of a second! Glory to the Tifosi and Forza Ferrari as Catherine Thielking looked to make the blue blur shine best. Alexis Mason has painted the town red in qualifying.
Big old buzzer beater there. Needed to find time in the final set to look like there was a bit of traffic for Mason to contend with as well. That is not going to bog down the prancing horse who takes it by, like you say, 800ths of a second elite. He throws it, tries to reverse gentry drift into the bus stop chicane. I think that is that for qualifying. And we do have a very familiar front row, but separated by only 800ths of a second. And we have as well beaten the pole time from last season, which is lovely to see as well.
Many names have tried to throw down the gauntlet. Many have signed up to see if they can throw that surplus of challenge to the regular runs, but no. Alexis Mason and Catherine Thielking lock out the front row by nearly, well, just over 2 tenths from the next closest challenger of Vanessa as the Williams crosses the line. What a car. Absolutely divine, but it is a 3-minute 50. I will admit that is probably above the 107% time. But whilst we're here, looking at this running order, first of all, shout-outs to obviously our front two. Shout-outs to Angel Kirby in the Red Bull on debut. P5 on the grid. Excellent effort. Rustic Bone, Regan Boylan and Miss Nutrix, P9 and 8 respectively. Great lap times from them as McLaren and Williams go racing into Eau Rouge. Please tell me we're going to see much more of that because qualifying was a sensational slobber knocker already.
Bring it out every time without fail, and we love it, don't we? It is the front row that we mentioned, Mason and Thielking leading the way. But it is close behind. Schaff in third. Ahead of the Mercedes of Esme Chambers. Angel Kirby finishing your top 5. Competitive inside the top 10. Competitive outside the top 10 as well. Really not a lot of time separating. If you take Melissa Muller there in 6th. Down to Grafo in 11th. Just a second on a circuit like this. That's not too much. And there's not a lot of time there, or a decent amount of time, I should say, that people can find to maybe gain themselves some places. There's a lot of opportunities that present themselves in the early stages.
Absolutely correct. Well, there you go. That's part 1 of the equation done and dusted. But that just means we can get into part 2. And that bit, well, it was so nice. We're just going to have to do it twice because it's time for the second session of the night. Time to head into race day. And again, just to highlight some of the big winners in that qualifying session. As you say, Esme Chambers in the Mercedes. Excellent laps. Same goes for Vanessa Schaff. Same for Angel Kirby. Wonderful effort from all of them. Qualifying is one thing, of course. Race trim is another, and it seems, well, it seems like there's no more appropriate time than to talk about strategy.
Yes. What I should say first and foremost is we are having a lobby reset in between here. So when we see the kickstart, don't be alarmed if it looks like an open lobby from 10 years ago, because it probably will do and it doesn't count. But ignore that. Strategy-wise, it's important that we have got a reset, of course, because everybody gets the soft compound tyres back into their arsenal. Yes, they're not the best race tyre, but if we do get a late race safety car, that's going to be very interesting to watch. I think we should watch this before we see what strategy talk we can muster up and have a jibber-jabber about.
Agreed. Lights out and away we go. They might as well clip this because this will be the actual race and we can fool people. But oh no, everybody's jumped the start or there's all kinds of carnage. Has anyone broke for La Source? No. Ferrari in the wall. That's a massive crash and that's going to be an expensive repair bill. Angel Kirby with a 10-second time penalty. Do you know what? Write it off. Right off the entire event. It is an ugly, ugly sight to see. The graveyard of Formula One as Vanessa Ostetler, well, bless her, is trying to get out of trouble, but you know what? It's thank you to the fans. Wave to the fans. That's all we need to do. Smile and wave, Vanessa.
Thought 2012 was bad. Thought 98 was bad as well. That's just a scrap heap by the barriers there going through La Source. Obviously didn't count for anyone that maybe missed that. That's not it. We're not leaving now. We're not just ending on that. Don't worry about that. That would be a pretty poor social race.
Exactly. Well, we'll find out, apparently, according to this, who's won the social race. At least from the Carnage Grand Prix, or the Carnage à Trois, if you know, you know. But if the podium ever shows up. That's the real question. But either way, Rio Harris, who, by the way, shout outs to Rio Harris. He's not on commentary today, but he does so much work in the background. He's done a truck ton of notes as well that has no doubt helped me, and I imagine Tom as well. A big, big deal indeed. He's even put the strategy in the Twitch chat. So massive shout outs to Rio Harris. Talks about, of course, it's going to be medium hard or hard medium, but there are those 2 steps difference. The main thing is, if we look to history, is Catherine Filking won the race. So there you go. That might well be a sign of what's to come. Elite in P2. Do you know what? I think just stop the race there. Elite in P2. Vanessa Hostetler in P3. I'm happy with that podium.
It's like we've done a tombola to decide who wins the race, haven't we? And one of the favourites has still come out of it last to win. That's perfectly summarised. But yeah, Rio does a lot of strong work with the strategy. He's a good racer as well. We should mention that, importantly. But yeah, the strategy game will be an interesting one, whether people go mediums first or whether they try the alternate strategy and go for the hard tyres. Whether we see safety cars, which it's a social race. It's a little bit more about fun rather than having too much serious, and there's no points on offer as well. So maybe people are just willing to just risk a little bit more. And we could see some safety cars. We could see the strategy that we've planned in our heads just completely thrown out of the window.
For sure we could. As we both return to your screens, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the main thing I want to allude to is, of course, in Season 1, we have this strategy talk currently. In Season 1, it came down to, it was Emma Clay that won the Belgian Grand Prix, but the strategy was quite interesting. They ran hards to mediums, and that seemed to be the strategy that managed to propel them forwards the most. It's quite interesting, because Alexis Mason started on the mediums, quickly got the lead. They, of course, quickly died off. The hards didn't really seem to have any pace in that second stint, because the tyre warm-up is just that little bit difficult, depending on setups, the pressures that you run, particularly on the fronts. It can be very difficult to use some energy into those front tyres as the lap goes on. So maybe better to get those harder compound tyres out of the way and then go for that softer compound, knowing you don't have to worry a huge amount about that tyre warm-up, because the game does it for you.
I think the problem with the mediums is as well, considering if you're starting on them, you're on heavy fuel loads, they're 2 steps softer, we should say, compared to the hards. They're not a particularly consistent race tyre. They fall off a cliff quite quickly. You maybe get 3 or 4 good laps out of them on race fuel. Then you're going to be struggling. And that's the point where the hard tyres have come up to temperature. And they're working really nicely, starting to sing quite a tuneful song for the drivers that have gone for that strategy. So that's where that element of doubt will come into the drivers' heads. Do we start on the hard tyres? They're going to be more consistent. They're going to be a little bit more malleable as well on the heavy fuel, where the mediums will just burn up very quickly. And then you can attack in the latter stage as well. Gives you that little bit of flexibility.
Exactly. Quite right. Well, new names have entered the fray, new challengers have entered the arena. Still same old names at the front. Pole position was beaten twice from Season 1 in qualifying by both Alexis Mason and Catherine Thielking. Great qualifying from both of them.
Yes, very impressive. It's harsh to say they're in a class of 2 because we had some contenders coming and going throughout, but they were really impressive. Looked hooked up as well. Looked like they had confidence in the machinery underneath them, which is always good to see around a circuit like Spa. If you're not feeling confident, we spoke earlier about how if you're hooked up and feeling the flow of the circuit, it's so nice and you feel $1 million. If you don't have that, things can feel a little bit of a chore. You've got some understeery corners. You've got some tricky traction zones. You just bleed time throughout the lap if you're not 100% on it.
Sure, couldn't agree more with you. Like I say, you're almost playing with fire. You've got those psychological demons. If you gain so much time in one place, you feel like you have to compromise because you don't want to overdo it. It's such a tricky balance to try and find. But I feel like a lot of our drivers did that. In fact, all 20 drivers, I think, did themselves really proud, because for some of them, it might well be their first ever league race or a league race at this kind of profile. But to have that confidence to be able to put a lap time on the board in the first place, worlds for their confidence, won't it?
We didn't see anybody throw it into a wall, and we didn't really see any spins. Yes, we may have seen a couple of mistakes out there, but that's obvious, and that's obviously going to happen when you are on the ragged edge of performance and grip, and like we said, on that knife edge of car balance and oversteer and just pushing it slightly over the limit. And the curbs, you can attack them. They're your friend or your foe, especially in the second half of the lap. Yes, they're flat. There is no grip on them at all. Through the Fania chicane, if you touch those inside curbs, the back of the car's gone, and you've got absolutely nothing you can do about that unless you have cat-like reactions and can save it within a microsecond.
Exactly. And then you've got the Stavolo corners after that as well. Stavolo 1, so easy to miss that early apex and not get the car properly hooked up. Then you've got Stavolo 2, another super glue curb on the inside where it can spit you out into the Spa Forest, and that's not very fun. Ultimately, everyone did a very good job. Like I said, I think there's quite a few people that will have probably their first league race, if not a league race at this kind of profile. Of course, you can feel some kind of pressure on that, whether it's conscious or subconscious. So I think as we sit here and get ready to go racing in a matter of moments' time, Tom, I think if we're sitting here and we're in their position as a first-time driver in this wonderful W1 Sim series, what is the biggest piece of advice for them tonight to really reap the rewards of this wonderful occasion?
Enjoy it. That's the first thing. Enjoy it. It's a pleasure to drive with the people that you're around with. It's a pleasure to be involved. Everybody, or the community, I should say, is very warm and very welcoming. It's a place where, you people that are in the Discord, you see the discussions that people are having. It's all about, obviously, self-improvement, but helping everybody around you as well. It's a journey, I think is the best way to put it. But just, I say keep it clean as a negative thing. La Source can get very sketchy, especially on the opening lap of the race. Just don't take too many liberties there, because it can hurt you if you chip a part of your front wing. The middle sector is going to be an absolute nightmare. That car's going to be it's going to be HMS understeer, realistically, going through Pool and going through the Fania chicane. But just, you can take a step backwards at the start of the race to take steps forward later on.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't have put it better myself. I think Carlotta Marchi, who's in the Twitch chat as well. Hello, Carlotta. I think she put it very well herself, which is keep calm and enjoy. Just enjoy it. There is no pressure. You don't have all of those demons on your shoulders. Just enjoy the experience. We're not here to put pressure on. We're not here to... The championship's not going to be won today. Of course, there's pride to be had, but the main thing is get to the end of the race. If nothing else, just learn, because so many people did that along the way. I think of Heather. I think of Miss Nutrix, our two most improved drivers from last season. Everyone has very different trajectories, I think is the great thing in this league racing series. But that's what makes it so beautiful, is that you see the journey. You've seen how so many people have progressed. And they're going to be part of that journey too. And that is a beautiful thing.
And this is early days as well. Let's not forget. Had one season. We're just about to start the second season. It's a long road in front, a long journey in front that hopefully everybody will stay on board with, because I think it's going to be a very fruitful one.
Exactly. Now, quickly, before we get into the motor racing. Predictions. Who's going to win this race? I will lay the gauntlet first. I'm going to say it's Catherine Thielking. I think her race pace can never, ever be overstated. I think she is absolutely rapid in race pace. And therefore, quite a scary prospect. Alexis Mason will have a tough time keeping her behind. Of course, and still be won on strategy. But I'm going to say the Alpine will do it. Tom, who do you think is going to take the win?
Just so that I don't get splinters and just so I don't get accused of being boring, I will say the opposite. I'll go with Alexis Mason. Really strong in qualifying. Pulled it out of the bag right at the end when it was necessary. So yeah, I think that confidence boost you can carry in. And like you said, once you're in the rhythm, in the flow, you feel $1 million.
Absolutely right. Let's hear also in the Twitch chat, YouTube, wherever you're watching this from, who you're rooting for as well. Steel Dallin. I'm so sorry if I've said your name wrong, but they're rooting for Jazz. That's great news. 5 red lights though. Let's get this Belgian bonanza started. Second season social race, and it's lights out, and away we go, and it's a good start for Alexis Mason, a scorching start, in fact, in the Ferrari. Catherine Thielking gets that second stanza correct, though, and gets La Source correct, but a massive slap of oversteer on the exit of the corner. That's going to relieve the pressure of Raccoons as they head down the hill, and then compress it up through Eau Rouge and Radion for the first time. As look at this, the Mercedes, Esme Chambers looking to challenge Vanessa in the RB car, piling on the pressure, hunker into the slipstream as everybody tries to navigate through the Kemmel Straight and through Les Combes for the first time correctly. Round the outside, tries to go Esme Chambers, has to leave the track, still remains side by side, but ultimately has to concede. The RB keeps P3 at the moment as it's all chop and change up and down the field.
Yeah, what a crazy start. We saw Mason go deep into turn 1, then Thielking light up the rear tyres to some tune. Eliti's had a bit of a drama out there going through the Les Combes chicane. I believe the Mercedes had a trip off the road, missing half of the front wing as well. Not ideal news at all. The two Aston Martins do battle, and Haas exit stage left in front, going off into the gravel through No Name.
Yeah, Rustic Bone going off down into P16, down to P17 they go. As both the Williams go through, go Williams. Absolutely divine, struggling on the hard tyres, more so than that. Front wing damage for Regan Boylan as well. Look at the front left end plate. It is completely sheared off, as off goes the Williams. Miyuki Panda's down to P15. Not a great start for her either, but a much less superior start for LJ Ripley in the Williams. I'm absolutely gutted. But towards the end of lap number 1 we go, as the leaders cascade down through Blanchimont and compress up into the bus stop braking zone. Thielking piling on the pressure on Alexis Mason, but it will be the Ferrari that leads us into lap number 2. Possibly feeling the pressure, they're just missing their braking points forwards a little bit more as they cross the line. The Ferrari leads. Catherine Thielking in P2. Vanessa in P3. They've already made a break for it, and they have to because they're on those medium compound tyres. So anytime they can gain at this early phase is going to be absolutely paramount. Already, Miyuki Panda and Regan Boylan peel into the pit lane. Devastating start for the pair of them as Steel King will look to try and challenge.
DRS flap will open for the first time. Chambers under pressure as well. You can just see in the background there, hard tyres haven't fired up just yet, but to the inside, big squeeze from Mason applied, but that's not going to stop Theo King, who plunders down the inside. First time, the leaders change hands through the Lecombe chicane at the start of the second lap. Alpine now leads Ferrari. Still not done though, because Mason fancies it to the inside into Rivage. Really difficult to get the front to bite, especially when you're not on the optimal line. Vanessa goes wide behind. Little bit of contact there between the two perennial contenders. Steel King wide again, going through No Name this time. Got to be in the middle of the circuit through Pouon, but I don't think, and no, not a regulation overtaking point. As actually, it is Raccoons going wide there.
Phil King there with the body language of the car. You saw it into Pouon going, absolutely not. Don't you even think about it. Into the fastest corner and probably the most daring corner on the track. But that was brave and bold and absolutely beautiful from Catherine Phil King. 3 times the winner in Season 1 in W1, of course, looking to put a social race win as a stamp of authority as well. Vanessa still keeping tabs with these two, though. Melissa Muller has made great progress on those medium compound tyres. The Alpine driver making it an Enstone 1-4 as Alicia Hofflack doing battle with the Williams, and Elizabeth doing battle with Miss Nutrix down the inside into Blanchimont corner. That's pretty brave from Miss Nutrix, but absolutely divine. Miss Nutrix, of course, as the Red Bulls go into combat. Jessica Ball versus Angel Kirby. That's Miss Nutrix going wide at the bus stop chicane. Just having to cut it. Looks like she's got away with it scot-free, which is great news. He loses a whole host of positions, though, down to the bottom of the top 10. And then a Red Bull immediately sends it down the inside of the Kick Sauber. It is left, right, good night at every single corner here.
Buffet driving there. Help yourself for Jess Ball going into the bus stop chicane. It was almost Kirby throwing it to the inside of La Source as well. Is this the lead changing hands again? Mason this time to the outside, or turn to the inside for turn 6. Second part of the Lecombe chicane. Theo King will be robust in their defence of the lead. Gives, just into the gravel. Yeah, gives Mason the cold shoulder. Thought it was just on the curb. In fact, dipping a couple of wheels, locking up as well into Rivage. Suddenly from attack to defence in the space of half a second, because Vanessa now all over the back of the Scarlet Ferrari.
That's the great news of all the pressure that the front two are piling on. Vanessa just sees the golden carrot being dangled and says, that is absolutely divine. Let's keep that one going, shall we? Because our race pace is actually pretty impressive. On a par with what Theo King and Raccoons are offering at the moment as we have a yellow flag. That's the Williams of LJ Ripley again. Just having a minor moment, but no harm done, no physical damage. Possibly just emotional as we head on to the end of lap number 3. So quickly, despite how long the lap is at Spa-Francorchamps, so quickly do those numbers cascade by. And Theo King and Alexis Mason obviously debating that track position, because if you are behind, you have that dirty air. Not only does your engine overheat, which is a bit of a bugbear in and of itself, those tyres are going to be screaming for resuscitation.
It's interesting looking behind as well, because Muller fallen back down into P5 behind Chambers. Maybe those hard tyres just firing up and just starting to deliver the kind of grip and confidence that the Silver Arrows driver is looking for. Miss Nutrix getting stuck in again. Kirby was deep into the bus stop chicane, but that looked like a clinical move down the inside from Miss Nutrix to take 9th place off the hands of the Haas. And just continue that charge forward as the Aston Martins again do battle. This time is Heather to the outside of the bus stop. And I think start Loki. No, we're 3 wide are we on the run into La Source. Both Aston Martins still with something to deal with, because to the inside, Heather has to go defensive. Long way round this time for the Williams, and does get the job done rather nicely.
Absolutely beautiful. HRT Lando, Hispania Racing Team. If you know, you know. But the point is, that was Matador mentality from the Williams driver to get through. Absolutely bulldoze on by. There's Elizabeth 11. Who knows what happened to the first 10 iterations, but the 11th one is doing pretty well. As through into P7 they go. A close-quartered combat affair between themselves and Angel Kirby. Does end for the moment with the Kick Sauber in front, but then immediate resuscitation and retaliation from the Red Bull. Looking to make it a Red Bull 6. No, don't you dare. But they're trying to go round the outside, and they do. Slalom on round the outside. Divine moves being made as it all starts to equalise up for the front 3. There is meteoric action behind.
It was really interesting watching the difference in driving styles there as well, because Elizabeth, much more tentative into the braking zone, but then confident to carry the speed through the corner, almost the corner off, roll the speed in. And Angel Kirby was much braver under braking, much heavier brake as well, sharper braking trace into the Les Combes chicane. So an interesting little bit of divergence as we look at the driving styles there, as Miss Nutrix slightly wide through Stavelo, could put her on the back foot, although the house not particularly closed. In fact, looking out of the halo rather than through the mirrors, because through Corporal Frere, that is 8th place handed on a plate to the Scarlet Ferrari.
HDCPCP418, behave yourself in the Twitch chat. No, I don't want to say that. I want to actually say it's lap number 5 and Miss Nutrix making good progress. Another woman as she goes slightly wider bus stop, but no harm done. She keeps the position. She's another one that puts a lot of pressure on herself, makes no secret about it, because of course there is that subconscious and psychological pressure of being signed with Ferrari. It's down the inside goes Elizabeth. That is ballsy, that is brave, and almost made it stick. But ultimately, you want to stay behind for that DRS. Again, Miss Nutrix puts a lot of pressure on herself, but again, it's all a part of the journey. She's learning all the time. She's getting faster and faster, and I will say it again, as I've said to her so many times, there is a reason why I voted her as my most improved driver for the W1 Sim Racing Series Season 1. I know what I'm saying. Through goes the kick Sauber, though. Miss Nutrix is going to have to do more battle out there.
Takes that back. Look at this, swapping for places. Lovely move from Heather down the inside into the Les Combes chicane. That's 11th place, and both Aston Martins on the move and in the groove, because start Loki past HRT Lando. That's 13th now for the second green machine, as they both try to charge forward. Heather on the medium tyres compared to the hard tyres for the secondary Aston Martin car. And Elizabeth, putting me in my place there, said she looked tentative under braking. That lunge into La Source was anything but tentative. That was fully committed down the inside. Love a bit of that. Throwing the car to the inside, hoping the driver in front complies.
Yeah, Elizabeth's had good pace this race. Third of the hard tyre runners on the track. Speaking of the number 3, because that's the magic number, I have a joke for that somewhere, but I'm not going to say it right now. Catherine Thielking is the third ever driver to lead at Spa in W1 Sim Series. The Alpine driver leads by 0.6 of a second over Alexis Mason. Both of them just creating a bit of a buffer now between themselves and Vanessa in the RB car. But then you've got Ace of Hearts, you've got Esme Chambers on those hard compound tyres. We're watching that gap studiously to see if it starts to come down and how rapidly it might start to come down. We're on lap number 6. You've got those 2 steps of difference in compound between the hard and the medium. You'd expect the hards to start coming into a realm of their own pretty soon, if not immediately.
And this could be the lead changing hands once again. Back forward. Haven't spoken about these two in a racing context for a while. Thielking hovers in the middle of the circuit again. Mason has to go the long way around. This time has a little bit more of an overlap, though, through turn 6. Contact again, just brushing the side pod of the Ferraris, the Alpine. But once again, elbows out. A jink over as well, down into Rivage. Still committed to charging down the inside. Got to be careful of the slippery curb on the inside. Inside will now be handed to the Alpine, but charging around the outside, surely not. That is absolutely perfect. Take it out of the picture book, the scrapbook, the textbook, whatever it is. That is absolutely stunning around the outside of No Name from Mason.
Tell you what, the arts of CQC, we found it here. Raccoons Gaming versus Catherine Thielking. What a spectacle they're putting on. Again, shipping about half a second, if not more, to Vanessa behind. But it is a corking display that they are putting on in the Spa social race here in W1 Sim Series. Of course, goes without saying, if you're enjoying what you're seeing, you aren't following yet, what the hell are you doing? Press that follow button or subscribe to the YouTube channel. You want to keep up with everything that's going on. Believe me and Tom, it is a wonderful, wonderful place to be, as Vanessa, again, sees the golden carrot being dangled, sees the opportunity to be part of the lead train once again, just flash up before her eyes, and she's back within a second in an instant.
Yeah, we're starting to fall away. Gap extended to 2.3 seconds, I think it was, at the start of the Kemmel Straight, and a lap later, right tucked up underneath the rear wing of the driver in second place. Thielking piloting that pink and blue, beautiful 2025 Alpine liveried car. They come out of La Source once more, foot flat to the floor. That exit, as we mentioned in qualifying, absolutely crucial to your chances of putting in a competitive first sector time. And it's Mason blitzing it there out of La Source, just opening the gap up by around a tenth. But maybe as the DRS comes into the equation, we could be seeing that slashed once again.
We could well be indeed. Catherine Thielking looking to respond to Alexis Mason. Alexis tried the outside line. So brave on the brakes is the Ferrari driver, though. They've really found their rhythm into the Les Combes chicane. Defends diligently, keeps P1 on the road. Again, Vanessa will dip inside that DRS range as much as they need to and as much as what will be offered to them as they head through the right-hander and then into No Name. Just let the car sweep on through for the 7th time this race. While all of that's happening, Elizabeth, Miss Nutrix, Katie Grafton, they're still fighting. It is a triple tussle for P8 on the road. It's a wonderful battle indeed. Death Not Jazz and HRT Lando, they're going at it as well as the McLaren Maestro doing a great job up into P13, made the overtake happen, or defended diligently, should I say. Gets it a little bit crossed up out of Lacon, but no harm done. Keeps the position for now. Of course, for those of you that might be new to W1, points are awarded traditionally from 1st down to 15th place, so everyone from Raccoons Gaming in P1 to Alicia Hofflack in P15 would all score points. Ooh. In W1, as through goes the Ferrari. That almost got very circumspect for a moment, but Miss Nutrix does go on through, bravely blazes the battery into oblivion, out of Poo on corner, spots the opportunity, grabs it with both hands. That is brilliant stuff.
Don't want to be recharging there and finding your pocket pinched there, Elizabeth, with Miss Nutrix flying through. But the first punch pulled by the leaders strategy-wise, because Theo King into the pits at the end of lap 7 to get shot of those medium compound tyres. How does Mason respond on the following tour? Still watching the Ferrari of Miss Nutrix into the bus stop. Should be comfortable ahead of Elizabeth. Or, I was going to say it, seen it again, little bit deep into the braking zone. The heavy braking zone of 19 and 20 allows the door to be opened once again. It's a jar for Elizabeth to try and make this work. It'll be the outside of La Source if they're brave under brakes. Through it to the inside. Do we see the same hanging it around the outside? You bet your bottom dollar we see it hanging it around the outside. Grafo trying to get involved as well. That is superb batting and still eyeball to eyeball. Shortly not into Rouge and Radion, no. So Elizabeth backing out. Can't be too circumspect though, because the hat's right in the thick of the battle too.
I thought I saw some games being played by Elizabeth. I don't want to cast aspersions on the old DRS game conversation and debate, but I felt like I saw some things being executed so that the Sauber, the highlight green machine, could then go on through in nuclear fashion into P8. Such is the radioactivity of the colour that dons their car, but Elizabeth goes through into P8. Theo King box, by the way, did get out behind both Red Bulls. Not where she wanted to be whatsoever. Has already cleared one of them, though, and is very quickly about to clear the other one, I suspect. 1.5 tenths the gap, soon turns to 2 tenths of a second. In fact, lost the time during Poo on corner, perhaps not wanting to throw all their chips on the table too early. But that could hold the advantage down to Raccoons Gaming, who can box at the end of this lap, maybe not lose as much time as they would have suspected. The Hards most definitely will last to the end of this race. Now that Catherine Theo King's pitted, even on lap number 7, they should easily make the end of the race. But Raccoons Gaming will have those newer tyres, and they pull the pit lane trigger. And this is where it gets interesting.
And this has not been a great outlap with the traffic for Theo King. Jess Ball not exactly making it easy, not just going to hand this one over on a silver platter as Theo King to the inside of the bus stop. This could get awkward if Jess Ball wants to pit at the end of this lap, but does just duck in front of her teammate there. That's like Schumacher and Vettel, wasn't it, from 2012? Ducking into the pits right at the last gasp. There is the flash of Scarlett coming out of pit road. I think the gap's going to be sizable as she emerges back on the circuit.
It is going to be sizable. Look at it. Look at the number on the left-hand side. 2 seconds. It will come down a little bit. But with 1 lap fresher tyres, Alexis Mason is going to be leading by a comfortable margin over Catherine Theo King. The Red Bull duel and dogfight has really scuppered her chances of
just pushing maybe a little bit too hard to out of Corporal Frere. And last driver out in the lead.
I think we're down, Tom.
Are we?
I think we are. Oh, no, we're back. I think we're back. Look at that. As soon as everyone puts their aspersions into the air, ladies and gentlemen, we return. And Sarah Hardy blames TK. Do you know what? That's a good move. Raccoons is now into P2. More pit stops have been made. For those of you that have just joined, Tom Wilkinson did, in fact, say that number 1, Vanessa, is peeling into the pit lane. So she did. She's peeled out behind Angel Kirby. Here on lap number 10, it is go, 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 HTCP. I couldn't be happier with that particular occasion. But through Eau Rouge and Radion they go, these 3 knocking 10 bells out of each other. Miss Nutrix has the DRS, and surely it's going to be an academic surge forwards into P number 6 for the Scarlet Ferrari. Indeed it is, as Elizabeth 11 lags like a hamster before Lacon.
Not the only person lagging, as somebody used their lag switch on me. Not very happy about that one, as I dropped about 1 million frames in the space of half a second. But this is an opportunity for Miss Nutrix. Try and scamper off into the distance. Maybe pull a fast one on Elizabeth with Melissa Muller just trying to get involved and maybe just fan out this trio that have been going at it for the first 10 laps of this race so far.
well, nearly approaching the fulcrum point of this race. And I'll be honest, it's everything that W1 is. Let's be real, ladies and gentlemen. It is absolutely everything that this league epitomizes us through. On the inside goes Melissa Muller. No real surprise on the newer tyres. Has to make the move stick, though, and no troubles at all into the Fania chicane. That's P7 for the Alpine driver. Interestingly, Raccoon's not really escaping at the moment. Theo King using that race pace that we know she has at her disposal, closing in that gap closer and closer to 1 second. We'll have to burn more battery in doing so. Alexis will hopefully, in her case, have it completely under control. As we get the statistic, of course, Esme Chambers has, is the 4th driver in W1 to lead at Spa-Francorchamps, but Catherine Thielking and Alexis Mason have a score to settle for their quest for the lead.
TK really is trying to scup me. I agree with that one. He might be doing some other broadcasting at the moment, but he's always there. He's always lurking, isn't he, TK? I bet he's here right now. TK, if you are, hello. But it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because the problem for Thielking with that outlap, getting caught in all the traffic, stuck behind the 2 Red Bulls, you've lost the time to the Ferrari, you've got all the tyres as well, and you have to work them harder to A, get back into the 1 second window, and then punch a hole through the dirty air in the middle sector in particular to get your way back through. So it's going to be a tall order for Thielking. Going to have some serious wheels on that car, as that is fairly straightforward for Vanessa on the brand new tyres compared to the used hards for Kirby to sail around the outside into Rivage.
Well, it looks like it's going to be a debut podium for the V-Carb driver, barring any absolutely diabolical proceedings. Vanessa Scharf on her debut in the Visa Cash App car, contactless transactions all the way through, could come home for a comfortable and composed podium on the newest hard compound tyres of the lead trio, boxed just last lap. And at the fulcrum point of the race, this is how we stand. Esme Chambers leads this race in the Mercedes car, does still have to pit though. Alexis Mason and Catherine Thielking are debating the lead. It's ebbing and flowing as Thielking seems to find the pace in the first and last sectors, but Alexis Mason has immediate response in that middle part of the lap. We then have Vanessa in P4, and then it will be Melissa Muller in provisional provisional P4 in P6 currently on the road, because Angel Kirby and a smattering of others have to peel into pit row. Whilst we're here, whilst we're at the fulcrum point, make sure you follow all the social medias, because I don't know if you all caught that, but you damn well better, because this is where you want to be. Season 2, not that far away, and as you can see, every single driver willing to lay the law down on the table. Whilst we're here though, Tom, any standout drivers for you so far this race?
Obviously the top 2 have been really strong. I've been very impressed with Melissa Muller as well, looking very strong and consistent out there as well, which is something that's difficult to do, especially in a 50% race, because the tyre wear can be quite inconsistent, especially on this game. Angel Kirby as well, done a really solid job, still out there pounding round on that used set of the hard compound tyres. Team at Jess Ball came in 3 or so laps ago. It'll be interesting to see what that Red Bull battle is in the second half of this race as well. Speaking of Jess Ball, there she is, moving on up. That's now 9th place.
There you go, on those newer tyres again. Maybe a slight shimmy and a shake as the hards maybe still not quite up to their proper operating temperature, but P9 on the road for Jessica Ball. Highlights for me, I agree, top 2 have been absolutely interstellar so far this race. Equally though, I think Miss Nutrix has done a great job. Hevar has done an exceptional job, I will say. Currently sits in a provisional, and I don't want to get my notes completely crossed up here.
10th?
I think might sit in a provisional 10th place. There is a top 10 on the cards for the Aston Martin driver, so a great run at things at Spa-Francorchamps for Hevar, who has brought out the scintillating weather, and as well, the odds were ever in her favour in this hungry game of motor racing. Again, lead train provisionally ebbing and flowing between Catherine Thielking and Alexis Mason. Jessica Ball is right up on the diffuser of Elizabeth though.
Should absolutely blast past here. No DRS, but a little bit of battery. Using the fresh tyres as well to punch it out of Stavolo too. And that is easy as you like to move back up inside the top 8. Haven't seen too much of Jess Ball today, to be fair, but just been very quietly going about her business. Going about her business on the gizmos. Going about her business, pounding around the circuit as Elizabeth. Do they jump in? No. Staying out for one more lap at least on these hard compound tyres. You're getting to the point now. 9 or so laps remaining, 10 laps remaining. You want to leave it a couple more. We saw how quickly those medium tyres did fall off in the first stint. So you don't want to leave yourself with a little bit too much to do. And you don't want to be thinking about tyre wear realistically in the last stint. You want to just be chasing and hunting down the drivers in front.
Precisely, Miyuki Panda, brief yellow flag for the McLaren driver. we're trying to assess what on earth's happened, going very, very gingerly indeed into the pit lane.
Downshift?
It might be the case, to be honest with you. Stuck in third gear as they enter the pit lane. It can happen. Surely not technical gremlins for Miyuki Panda, who had such an impressive qualifying session. In fact, front wing damage as well to boot. A front wing change required. Not shifting out of third. So physical and possibly technical trouble for the McLaren, which is devastating to see after all the conundrums they had on lap number 1 as well.
Double trouble. Not good news. When the game isn't treating you nicely and then the equipment says, you know what, we're going to make it 10 times as worse. Not good news at all. But out on a brand new set of medium tyres, they can really try and punch in the lap times in this second half of the race for Miyuki Pan. I think just tap the wall a little bit. Are we still in third gear? No, we are changing. So we did go down to second. So looks like the situation has been recovered, which is good news.
Possibly just reserving it into the pit lane. A look of disheartenment as Steel King does set the fastest lap of the race. It's milliseconds that separate these two. They're just interchanging sector times all the while. It seems that Steel King has the first and last part of the lap secured. Look at that, 44 thousandths of a second separating Raccoons and Catherine Thiel King. A number 44 that shows these two are destined for greatness in the grand context of Spa-Francorchamps. Esme Chambers still leads though, hasn't boxed for those medium tyres just yet. And a 1:45.920, of course, the fastest lap in Spa-Francorchamps in W1 Sim Series season number 1, I believe, off the top of my head, was in the 1:43. So we're not going to be blitzing that today, but who cares? It is a social race after all. And speaking of which, Angel Kirby has peeled into the pit lane on a fresh set of medium compound tyres and can see some hungry targets ahead.
This could be a fun one. That rampaging bull in the second half of this race. Got 3 drivers within her clutches. What's that, 8 seconds to P5 with Melissa Muller? That's definitely possible. Miss Nutrix still needs to stop as well. 13 laps on the hard compound tyre. So opportunities should present themselves to Angel Kirby. And first and foremost, it will be her teammate, the Red Bull stablemate, the White Bull versus the classic, cool original Red Bull car that Angel Kirby is rocking and rolling with at the moment.
Doesn't have that worry about tyre warm-up as well. You can see just how hooked up that Red Bull car is as Alicia Hoffenblatt gets a 3-second time penalty, exploring the track limits more and more as they look to up their confidence more and more. This is all a day of learning, if nothing else. Esme Chambers, that gap now reduced to under 2.5 seconds because, well, the hard tyres, once you have those new tyres on, even 8 laps worth of a deficit, you have meteoric pace in comparison, and Esme Chambers sees that and goes, I'm bailing out of that battle. Onto medium tyres they will go for the rest of this race, and again, another scintillating show about to unfold as we head into Blanchimont. For the 14th time for these particular drivers, Angel Kirby, Jessica Bull, and Miss Nutrix, almost separated by an A4 piece of paper. As Jess Bull, you can see her weaving up ahead to say, don't make the move just yet, because Miss Nutrix will peel into the box. I'm willing to help you out in this one, to give you that slipstream, to try and challenge Melissa Muller about 5 seconds up the road. Some great sportsmanship, and sportswomanship, should I say, from the Red Bull team.
Jess may be having a few flashbacks to a few laps ago as well, where she got caught on the wrong part of the road trying to get into the pit lane. Didn't want to find herself in a sticky situation once more. But with no DRS down the Kemmel straight, this is going to be fairly standard. And with that teamwork that's going on between the Red Bull duo, this should be a lovely bit of slipstream pulling over to the left-hand side. And that is the inside for Kirby to blast past her team and continue this assault up towards Melissa Muller in position number 5. 5 seconds. That is the margin you've got to close down in 8 laps.
We'll see how it ebbs and flows. In fact, to be honest, how it gets chomped down as the rest of this lap goes on. There's 3 tenths already. 3 tenths. I raise you maybe even more than that. There's half a second. Make that even more at about 6 tenths of a second as they head through the right and then the left-hander towards Bouillon Corner. I raise you nearly 8 tenths. In fact, yes, 8 tenths of a second. That is the killer blow that these medium tyres supply. But the question is, will they have the tyres left when they get to Melissa Muller? That's the big question. Up at the front, Field King trying to close in. It's always hovering at that 1.5 second mark. Just ever so close to breaking on through, to piling on that pressure a little bit more. That's what ideally she needs. She just can't do it. Even with 1 lap difference worth of tyres, I think Alexis Mason has that psychological advantage locked in now.
Just keeps ebbing and flowing, doesn't it? Almost like Alexis Mason can just keep Theo King at arm's length, punch in a decent couple of sectors. Okay, I'll respond to that, and I'll just extend that gap back out another couple of tenths. It's a really interesting arm wrestle that's going on at the moment. And has Theo King got anything left? 6 laps to go, 1 lap older tyres, had to burn through some of it getting through the Red Bulls, had to burn through some of it getting through the dirty air of Mason. Is there anything left for the Alpine so he can continue what was a superb battle that we saw in the early stages? The opening salvos, as that is quite comfortably the fastest lap of the race for Angel Kirby on those brand new mediums.
Yeah, setting the timing sheets ablaze as she's halved the gap already to Melissa Muller. Elizabeth finally peels into the pit lane. Off those wrecked and ruined hard compound tyres. It means, of course, Miss Nutrix moves on through into P8 on the road. Elizabeth should peel out in P9, but, well, in fact, no. Scratch that. Don't scratch your eyes. Read all about it on the front page, on the back page. The big news is Heather is in P9. What an effort from the Aston Martin driver. Quietly been going about it. We haven't talked about her too much this race, but has had her own space to get those lap times in, and she's reaped the rewards so handsomely. What a drive it's been so far.
Didn't have a great start either. I think lost places in the opening couple of laps, battled back through the traffic, and now finding herself in a very strong position as her teammate goes backwards there. Grafo past start, Loki in the battle just outside the top 10, as Carl correctly said earlier on, down to 15th for the point scorers, if of course this was a proper race, which it is not. It is a social race, and look out in front as well. 2 seconds now the margin between the leading duo. That gap continuing just to bleed and bleed and bleed as Mason, with that advantage of the slightly fresher tyres, I think that could be what decides this race.
As Esme Chambers peels in the fastest lap of the race. We're into the 1 minute 44, so 44.908 for the Mercedes driver, and still has a chance of getting a podium here. Esme Chambers, out of absolutely nowhere, it feels like, after that hard tyre stint, could well pinch a podium away from Vanessa, who looked to have it signed, sealed, and delivered early doors. But no, that is not the way the cookie hath crumbled, because sweet treats are lending themselves the way to the Mercedes driver. Immediately, Elizabeth is going to get to work, though, has those medium tyres on, but Heather burning towards Blanchimont, trying to keep the Sauber out of arm's length. You play with fire a little bit doing that, of course. You leave yourself exposed, but Heather's battle isn't really with the kick Sauber, I would suspect. Or maybe it is, because a 3-second time penalty comes about. So there you go. Elizabeth has got even more work to do now as we head into the latter phases of this race.
And this is where the diverging strategies is. That's a lock-up for Elizabeth into turn 1. Rotates the car nicely. What an exit that is. Will we see the DRS games? It takes a while for them to appear. I think not for the first time. That's Elizabeth just holding back, knowing what's going to be coming up in 10 seconds or so. 3-second penalty or not, she's going to absolutely rocket past her, is she? Because that was quite the fishtail, quite the Code Brown moment. Somehow manages to catch the slide and also blast past Heather once again. But that was an interesting moment there. Just a bit of a wiggle. Maybe just pulled out a little bit too late and got caught out by that one.
Back of the DDoS, potentially, from Elizabeth. It is a rogue strategy, and it's paid off quite well, I will admit. Up to P9. Now they have to make a 3-second gap, which should be completely possible on those mediums, provided they do not melt into a pyroclastic flow Pirelli. Up at the front, under 2 seconds is the gap. Alexis Mason and Catherine Thielking. You've then got Vanessa in P3. The charge of Esme Chambers has been cooled slightly. At 3 seconds, the gap is remaining at, not nearly being chomped at quite as much as she would have hoped. Meanwhile, Angel Kirby has been chomping away. She's well within a second of Melissa Muller, and a top 5 on the cards for the Red Bull driver, but has to execute La Source and the preceding corners correctly.
And Melissa deep into the bus stop chicane, leaving herself vulnerable here. Don't want to go for it into La Source. We saw what happened on the previous lap with Heather and Elizabeth. That is going to be a waste of an overtake, because DRS just blast straight back on through, or at least use the slipstream and a little bit of battery you've saved up, if indeed you don't get the DRS on that occasion. But up through Rouge and Radion we go, to the best in the F1 business, and this with the DRS flap open is going to be a standard move. Angel Kirby rocketing, romping along in that rampaging bull on the medium tyres. Melissa Muller keeping a foothold in the battle to the outside of Lacombe chicane, but eventually waves the white flag as 5th place is now handed over to the Red Bull. We'll see how this tyre battle and strategical battle develops in the closing stages, because when we get to the end of this, 4-lap old medium tyres at this stage, another 5 laps to do. Maybe there could be a swing right at the death if Melissa Muller can just take this deep and stay in this fight when we get to lap 21, perhaps.
Resistance is futile for the time being. Speaking of which, there's a big battle going on for that last points-paying position. Rustic Bone, Regan Boylan versus Miyuki Panda. Hards versus Mediums. Haas versus McLaren. They're both converging on the other McLaren of Def Not Jazdo, and some DRS will be supplied to Regan Boylan, and that should keep her in a points-paying position, so potentially a stroke of luck heading her way. Yes, DRS will be lended to the Haas driver, and that will mean a double of investment, up to 2 points potentially on the road. If not, just position protection for the time being, as the McLaren, well, just moving about on the straight. Def Not Jazz and Regan Boylan do know each other very, very well indeed. Friendly faces to each other on the grid, but this is all-out competition in W1. There are no friendly faces, mostly. Up at the front, there was no friendly faces at all. In fact, it was very much all guns blazing for the majority of the race. Long may it continue up and down the field. It's all equalised a little bit here at Spa-Francorchamps. But again, what a drive from everyone. And the thing is, what I love to see is that everybody is going to make the end of this race. No one throwing in the towel. There's always learning to be had. There's always something you can take from a race like this.
Yeah, it's never absolutely done for, isn't it? There's always something you can either learn or practice or just try and improve, even if the first few laps have gone awry. You've got damage early on, you're taken out of the equation. Well, at least I can maybe just try and work on myself a little bit here, work on the apexes. Maybe there's a particular part of the circuit you're struggling with. You don't know the turning point for Pouon, for example. Experiment with throwing the car in, seeing how the front bites and how the rear responds as well when you do ask it to do quite a lot into that corner. Look at the closing speeds there. Rustic Bone having to dart back out to the right-hand side outside of Blanchimont. I think we're still too wide as the camera angle is absolutely abhorrent for the racing situation. But flying on through goes Rustic Bone, and I think a little bit, well, a lot of it deep there into the bus stop chicane, and now it's going to be Papaya Civil War on the run into turn 1.
Miyuki Panda shaking her fist in the air, no doubt, because that is not what she needed. She knew that Regan Boylan was there for the taking. Just backs off a little bit. Knows DRS is going to be in her favour as they head down through the Kemmel Straight for the 20th time in their race. Well, actually, no, it might well be for the 19th time in this race, because I'm pretty confident that is the Ferrari of Raccoons Gaming and Theo King making their way through Eau Rouge and Radion for the 20th time. So coming up to Lapsam, people, what a race those two have had. Needless to say, they have had a cracking go at Spa-Francorchamps. Gave us some electric entertainment early doors as Miyuki Panda tried to challenge Def Not Jazz. And in fact, Jazz said, Def Not, you're not taking that place. I want that point in my account. So the battle will continue. But Alexis Mason, Catherine Thielking, class of the field surely. But maybe, Tom, you have a different name to throw into the ring.
I don't necessarily have a different name outside of those two because they have been superb out in front, and it is that slight tyre offset and maybe Alexis Mason with a couple of tenths of a second in hand pace-wise just to eke that gap out lap by lap, just moving away, and Theo King not quite with the tyre life to respond. 3 seconds, now that gap, and yes, it is them. You could just see there the race leader through the Fania chicane. These two McLarens are going to be gobbled up fairly shortly, you would say. However, another one that's done a superb job, sat inside the top 10. Opportunity still to stay inside the top 10, as I think Miyuki Panda may be having some more issues there, dropping a lot of time through Stavolo. Was that just to let the blue flags come through? I think probably.
I think so. I think it was. Alexis Mason moves on through past the first piece of traffic, has the other McLaren to dispatch of as we head very soon into the penultimate lap of the race. Ria Harris poses an important question, really. Early statements from these two to cement themselves as championship contenders. I would say yes, but I'd exercise caution on that. We haven't seen Lee Woodward racing today. We haven't seen Emma Clay racing today, to name but a couple of fast and furious foes in the W1 Sim Series that Raccoons and Catherine will have to face. So it'll be interesting to see how they have evolved during the off-season, how much pace they have extracted from their respective pieces of machinery. But I'm going to try and not be boring. Of course, Alexis and Catherine have been amazing. But Heather has impressed me so much. Really, really impressed me. Is going to cement herself in a solid top 10. No doubt about that in my mind. What a race she's had. Has just kept it cool and composed. Has had amazing race pace. Kept it super, super consistent. And, well, the benefits are all too clear to see. Running in P10, unless Katie Grafton has an astonishing last 2 laps of the race, it will be a lean green machine in 10th place, and deservingly so.
I think it's that first stint that has set Heather up for this run inside the top 10. Yes, these guys on the mediums are a bit quicker at this stage, and it's not a foregone conclusion that she does stay in 10th with the Haas taking chunks of time out, still with a little bit of a tyre advantage at this stage, but the recovery after a difficult opening couple of laps got in the flow, in the rhythm, in the zone, pounding out the lap times. And like you said, that key word, consistency. Once you have that consistency unlocked, a whole world of opportunities as the race pans out just present themselves in front of you.
An ultimate lap of the race then, ladies and gentlemen. What a scintillating social spa occasion it has been, as we cascade down through Eau Rouge and up through Radion from the perspective of the third person of Heather. She makes her way through to that historic Kemmel Straight. So many names that provide so much history, so much weight on the shoulders of so many drivers, and yet they've coped with it absolutely beautifully. As round the final corner to start the last lap of this first social race preceding Season 2 is Alexis Mason in that Ferrari car. What a drive it has been all the way through. Of course, the undercut didn't work for Catherine Thielking, but she soaked up the pressure, made the move stick, got that track position, cemented herself with psychological authority, and has taken that and ran as they head down the Kemmel Straight for the final time. And, well, you can't really throw or cascade a shadow on this kind of drive, because it has been a statement drive in this social race.
Rock solid, bulletproof, all the superlatives really that you can throw on that one. And how important does that qualifying lap look now? Buzzer beater right at the death, stealing it, pocket pinching for Catherine Thielking by 0.08 of a second, giving herself the opportunity to run in the lead of this race. Yes, they swapped places a couple of times early on, but had the advantage in the early stages. Wasn't on the back foot, where Catherine Thielking had to be the one chasing for the majority of it, especially in the second stint as well. Has just been so cool, calm and collected out front, and it will be a very well-deserved victory.
So much easier to be the hunter than to be hunted. But the only thing Alexis Mason had her reticule locked onto was the sight of the top step of the podium. As round through Stavelo 2 they go, foot flat to the floor. They can just enjoy the moment. Didn't manage to get a win in season number 1, despite all of the surplus of pace that they had, despite all of the brutal battles that they found themselves conjuring up. They have been super, absolutely super in Spa. Through the bus stop chicane to paint the town red. They're right on schedule. Alexis Mason takes their first ever win in W1 Sim Series. Into the wall goes the Haas in the background. It does not matter one bit, as across the line comes Catherine Thielking to take P2. The final step of the podium on debut. Vanessa Schaaf, welcome to the podium in W1 Sim Series. Esme Chambers tried to throw up the fight, but couldn't do it. The mediums just would not hack it till the end. Angel Kirby on debut as well. An absolutely well-deserved P5 on the road. And then we wait for this. The battles are not done yet. So long as the lap at Spa-Francorchamps. Heather's got to try and keep P10 here, Tom.
This is pressure in the closing stages. You understand what this means. Yes, there's no points on the line, but the bragging rights, finishing inside the top 10. Opportunity that you've got to try and grab here as it presents itself. This will be a dash to the finish, coming out of Corporal Frere and into the bus stop chicane. Who's got the battery left? We've seen Heather has been charging throughout the entirety of the middle sector, dumping that battery now and extending that gap, and barring any maladies into the bus stop, this should be an extremely well-deserved top 10.
It should be indeed. To the bus stop they go. We've had Melissa Mueller, Jessica Bourne, Miss Nutrix secure P6, 7 and 8 on the road. Elizabeth will cross the line to take P9 even with the penalty applied. Heather will cross the line for a tremendous top 10 result. Consistency is key, and she unlocked searing success here tonight. Just a couple more drivers to cross that start-finish line. Vanessa Hostetler in P12, even with a 10-second time penalty. Did not matter. Regan Boylan was that lap down. And finally, Alicia Hofflack will cross the line. And that will bring twilight upon W1 Sim Series Social Race number 1. And what a race it's been. I say this every time, but W1 never ever disappoints.
Said early on, blink and you'll miss it stuff. The battles in the early stages, not leaving anything to chance, not leaving anything on the table, 100%, and that's what we absolutely love to see. Brilliant victory, brilliant drive from all of the podium sitters, and many more besides as well. If you're interested in the awards, by the way, obviously we know Alexis Mason with the race win, fastest lap going to Esme Chambers, Lando driver of the day, and then Grafo, most overtakes and cleanest driver. Nice double to take with you into the next one.
Great work from Katie Grafton. The graft did pay off, but it is Alexis Mason whose hard work has paid off handsomely in P1. Catherine Thielking retained her grid spot of P2. In fact, the top 8 all retained their grid spots. Vanessa, Esme Chambers, Angel Kirby, Melissa Muller, Jessica Ball, and Miss Nutrix all reclaim their grid positions despite all of the battling that occurred. Elizabeth moves up a bunch of places, as does Heather from P14 to P10. A superlative showing from the Aston Martin. Katie Grafton in P11 with Vanessa Hostetler 12. Regan Boylan, HRT Lando, and Miyuki Panda round out our point scorers with Death Not Jazz, Lily Bowling, Aliti, LJ Ripley, and Alicia Hofflack. Rounding out our running order, like I say, most crucially, they all came home to finish the race, and there's always something they can learn from that.
I think when you look at that, it undersells it, doesn't it? Top 8 finishing in the order they started. Sounds like an absolute bore draw. Classic 0-0 on a cold, rainy Thursday night. But no, super interesting, really exciting one as well. Great racing. I think we've maybe not spoken about that so much. We saw some great battles, but it was clean as you like. Really good battles going on throughout the field, and it looked like people were really trying to lay a couple of markers down. Maybe just, put a few cards out on the table already just to see what they're about.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more with you, and we could well have some interviews on the way. We've got a couple of drivers waiting in the wings in the form of Alexis Mason and Catherine Thielking, our top 2, ready to give their particular view on that Spa-Francorchamps race. But wow, honestly, it was incredible. Like you say, it kind of undersold it, the fact that the finishing order was the way it was, but you just have to look back at all of those battles. You have to look at the way that every driver was so respectful. At the end of the day, they gave each other that racing room. There was plenty of that sportswomanship on show. That was just brilliant to see all the way through.
It's the vibes. That's what I mentioned at the start. Good vibes only. That's the way that we approach things, isn't it?
Couldn't agree more with you. Could not agree more one bit. I would I will be completely candid with you all. I would try and move Alexis Mason or someone to the interview room, but unfortunately I can't. So that rather hurts my feelings. Well, it doesn't hurt my feelings actually, but like what am I supposed to do here? But top 3 are ready and waiting, quite possibly. So we shall soon see if we're in a limbo or not. But the point is, Heather's in the chat. Heather, by the way, round of applause from me and Tom. Well done. Smashed it out of the park. That was an excellent drive. And yeah, if we have to give someone driver of the day today, Tom, I mean, there might well be a foregone in some cases. One name we have to pick out. Who on earth do we choose?
That's a very difficult question, isn't it? Because there were so many great performances. Top 3 were really strong. Melissa Muller was really strong. Heather was really strong as well. It's really difficult to make a case for one person. Angel Kirby as well, really good drive as well. I think P5 or P6 in the end. Really strong final stint. I think the consistency that we saw from Heather was actually really impressive. And the bounce back ability and almost setting yourself up in those early stages for that top 10 finish. I think that was extremely impressive. I'm also going to say, if there are any mods in the Discord server, please can you help us out? We might need a little bit of assistance just to get people in. We want to have a chat, but, we just can't quite get there.
It's waffle time in W1, which is rather appropriate because we're in Belgium. How about that? That was only part 1 of the social race proceedings, of course, as we wait for season 2, as we wait for the 2026 cars to come about. Yeah, my goodness me. Why goodness me. But again, the thing is, we have to address the elephant in the room in some regards. And that is that, number 1, we haven't got the likes of Lee Woodward. And number 2, Emma Clay in this race today. We don't know how much they have learned over the course of the off-season, how much pace and phenomenal pace at that they have to put on the table. So the real litmus test will come when we have that season 2 race. You would imagine that, Emma Clay and Lee Woodward will be in that next social race. But then it's when you put all of them together in the same room. That's when the fireworks will go off. That's when it will get really...
We had, for the majority of last season, a 4-way championship fight. I think we had, 15 points covering them with only a couple of rounds to go. And when we see performances like this from people that weren't necessarily in the championship fight, obviously Catherine Thielking was a big part of that, Alexis Mason less so consistently, I think that just shows us potentially a sign of maybe we could expand that lead group even more. I think that's what we absolutely want to see. People racing flat out right at the sharp end and a really wide open championship battle, because that's going to make things very exciting.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more with you. Not one bit. Well, that French show boat. Hello, mate. And firstly, that is terrible rage bait. Don't ever say that to me. We know there are 3 people here. We can't do anything. We're a bit stuck. But short and succinct, I think we can summarize if it doesn't happen. We can summarize the interviews pretty well. Well done. Great race. great success. And that's the
Do
end
I
of
act
that.
as the driver? Do I act as the driver? I mean, you're a better driver than me, so I think you know more about winning than I do. I think that's probably fair.
I think, do you know what? As respective drivers between the two of us, I think we can say that was a great drive. Good news is, one of the drivers does have the commentary box perms, and that is Alexis Mason. So, Alexis Mason, if you could, save our bacon, please, because we are really clutching at straws right now. And all the waffle ones in the world. Please make your way into the commentary chat immediately. Thank you very much. But all that remains for me to say is, whilst Alexis Mason is making their way in, and they are here, Alexis Mason, it doesn't matter that it's a social race. Does not matter one bit. You are a W1 Sim Series winner. How does that feel?
It feels good. That was a tough race. And had to keep going at it.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more with the sentiment. I think it came down, I feel like, to that first stint. Track position seemed like it was quite important for you, but again, I think once you had that tyre offset, it looked like you were completely in the rhythm. So much of a vast change from Season 1, where it looked like the hard tyres just didn't work for you. It looked like you were right on it this race.
Yeah, in Season 1, I pit on lap 7, not lap 8, and I think that's what held me back a lot, because I just didn't have the tyres, quite enough grip. So when I saw Theo King box on lap 7, I was like, I'm going to go one over to try and get tyre offset, and fortunately for me, Theo King actually got held back by the Red Bulls, which helped me out even more.
Absolutely. And just a quick word on that battle in that first stint with Catherine Thielking. It looked really respectful. Plenty of, maybe a bit of argy-bargy at times, but it looked like it was really respectful. Some great racing. Just how did you find it on your...
I thought it was borderline, but it was on the right side of borderline.
We like that. We like the right side of borderline. Tom, I think we can probably agree. Right side of borderline's a good way of assessing it, but it was great action.
Was box office. I think it was 100% that. It was really good stuff to watch. Just one from me. Well done, firstly, of course. But in that final stint, what was the strategy from your point of view? Because you obviously had the margin after Thielking was held up on their outlap. Was it just trying to manage the gap, keep them at arm's length for the majority of the first part of that final stint, or was it let's just try and build a gap as much as possible?
Keep her out of DRS. So, because DRS is very overpowered. So, I was thinking, keep her out of DRS, I can win this.
So, short, succinct, straight to the point. A winner at Spa-Francorchamps, ladies and gentlemen. What more do you need? Alexis Mason, massive congratulations. Needless to say, you are a W1 Sim Series winner. Go and enjoy it. Well done.
Cute.
Very welcome. And great news. Well, we have Catherine Thielking in the interview pen. Catherine, welcome in. P2 at Spa-Francorchamps. Looked like some great race pace, but ultimately, it looked like the attempted undercut was ultimately what held you back today. Talk us through it.
Yeah, it was just really unlucky. I got stuck behind the two Red Bulls coming out of the pits, and that costed me so much time. So, yeah, I was unlucky with that, but there's nothing you could do.
For sure, absolutely. You still had that great race pace, ultimately, that we've seen so many times before, which is something you can take with you. No doubt about that. A quick word also on that first stint battle with Alexis Mason. She seemed like she really enjoyed it. I just wanted to get your thoughts on the back and forths between the two.
Oh yeah, it was really fun. I did squeeze her a little bit, but that's part of racing, and I know in the future I'll work on that. But those battles were a lot of fun and kind of made up for getting stuck behind the two Red Bulls later on in the race. But overall, it was a great battle.
Positive vibes only, Tom Wilkins. We love it.
Absolutely. And that wasn't the only battle you had, because qualifying, that was a really interesting duel as well. That went back and forth, just having it stolen right at the end. How was qualifying for you? How comfortable were you feeling on low fuel throughout session?
I was feeling pretty good. I definitely did better than how I did in the first season. I was only able to get one lap out last time, but this time I was able to put the full 3 laps and put in my full effort. I think I put in a good effort, but unfortunately Alexis just got out right ahead of me.
Of course, but I think the main thing is, like you say, you've extracted that particularly around Spa, you've managed to extract that qualifying pace more. We've had some time, of course, off of W1 Sim Series, so just curious to find out, how have you been, keeping yourself fresh in terms of the F1 game mechanics? What learnings have you had? Just talk us through how you've been spending the.
I have another league that I take part in, so I kind of keep that as kind of the practice during the off season for this league, and kind of trying to keep my skills sharp. I do it. I admit I have been kind of relaxing these past few weeks and kind of taking a break from the game. I was getting a little overwhelmed. Yeah, I'm feeling good going into this next season, so hoping for the best.
If that was relaxing, ladies and gentlemen, we might all be in trouble. Catherine, no, honestly, excellent work. If that was you relaxing, I can't wait to see what you pull off as we go forwards. Congratulations on the P2. Thoroughly deserved podium. Enjoy your evening.
Yeah, you too. Thank you guys so much.
Very welcome. There's P2 on the road, ladies and gentlemen. But in the V Cup, you, Vanessa Sharp, I hope I'm saying your name right. I'm so sorry if I'm not. But a podium on debut. Congratulations. Looked like you had some great race pace out there. Talk us through it.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, pace was quite alright. I mean, Alexis and Catherine were clearly faster, so no chance for me to get or follow them through the whole race. Was happy to be close to them the first, 5-6 laps, but then when I lost the DRS, yeah, they just drove away. So I focused behind to the Mercedes, who put really the pressure on me, especially in the second stint with the different strategy. But I think her tires just burned through to the end, and the gap of 3 seconds was quite manageable. So quite good, was fun.
Yeah, looked really fun. And also in qualifying, you were the only other driver to scrape into that 1:41 barrier, which was wonderful to see. Clearly got lots of pace. Is Spa a track that you have a particularly good affinity with, or is it just one of the tracks of all time?
I really like the track, and I think it's one of my better tracks where I'm at. There are a couple of others where I'm looking forward to hopefully drive there next season. But yeah, I'm just excited what the season will bring and the next social race. So, but Spa is an instant classic all the time, so it was really fun here.
I'm so glad to hear it. Instant classic. You heard it here first, Tom Wilkinson. Instant classics. That's all we put out.
You can't not like Spa, right? Unless it's 2021. We don't talk about that one. But I think the question from my side is, from a strategy point of view, what was your position on the starting on the mediums versus starting on the hards? Because the driver that you were in the same race with right at the end was on the alternate strategy, like you said.
Basically, just to not get undercutted by other drivers and maybe get stuck in the traffic. And I think this worked out pretty well. So this was the main reason, and I think it was the right decision. Even though it was quite difficult the last, 2 or 3 laps on the medium, which was really not nice to drive. But the hard was amazing.
Of course, but you dealt with it incredibly well. I will say that much. Final thing from me. You're very welcome. Final thing from me, Vanessa, is we've had some familiar faces in the interview pen, but you are a new face to W1 Sim Series, so I thought if there was anything you wanted to say to the wonderful viewers, just to introduce yourself a little bit, any content you might be putting out there.
Yeah, I'm just Vanessa from Austria. Was really fun here to drive. I'm excited for the next season. I'm hoping to get a bit closer to the girls in front, have some fights with the others. Not really doing much. I mean, I'm driving in a German league, a part of here, so. But I found this here and was just interested in the project. I think it's a good one, and what I've seen about last season, it looks like a very fun league, very competitive and very fair, to be honest. I mean, yeah.
Well, all I have to say is enjoy the journey. It's great to have you on board, Vanessa. Welcome to the podium in your first ever race. Enjoy the evening.
Thank you very much.
Massive well done.
Thank you.
There we go. That is our top 3, ladies and gentlemen. What a race it's been, Tom. And I feel like we could have so many words to talk about Spa-Francorchamps, but how do you summarize, a race like that around such a historic venue? We've had a few weeks off to try and detox. and then you immediately get bombarded with action like that. I mean, where do you even start?
That's the bar. That's the benchmark. That's what we've set so far in the social races. Let's clear it in the next couple. Really strong start, really exciting race. Great battles out on Circuit. Some nice strategical duels going on as well, and some fantastic storylines. So what else could you want from what is effectively the pre-season of the second season?
Some scintillating stanzas in Spa-Francorchamps to just try and turn up the wick a little bit more. And if there's anything that W1 has taught us, it's that if the wick can be turned up, it will. Oh, it can. Oh, it can. But there you go. Spa-Francorchamps is done and dusted. What a venue we have been to. What a race we have just seen. And if you've enjoyed all of the visuals, all of the sonority, and every other sense in between, please consider following W1 Sim Series. As you can see, we have a slew of social medias. If you're in the Twitch chat, they have just been posted in there, whether that's an Instagram, a TikTok, an X, rubbish name. I still call it Twitter, but an X. No idea. And then maybe other things besides. If you want to be a part of this astonishing community, please join the Discord server. That is where you can keep up with all the action that we have. A massive thank you to Sim Racing Centre, SRC, who proudly partner this league. They have supplied pretty much every single setup that these wonderful women have been using in this race, and they do have some cracking setups. I can attest, to that fact. But as twilight descends on Spa-Francorchamps, all that remains for me to say is, Tom, a massive thank you. You have been a wonderful person to commentate alongside, as you always are. What an absolutely brilliant fella. But where can the wonderful people find you on an interweb?
Before an interweb, where you can't find me is, and I did have to come up with this in the last 10 seconds. You can't find me zooming through the zoos of Zanzibar.
Oh.
There you go. I thought, we'll go for... We don't usually use Z as the letter, but Wilco.com's on Instagram and TikTok. Pleasure as always to jump into this series for, I think, the second time so far. Always good fun, and always a pleasure to be with yourself, Carl.
Well, the pleasure is all mine, my friend. Hope you have you back more, quite frankly, because you are amazing at what you do. Goes without saying. But as for me, I'll tell you where you can't find me, ladies and gentlemen, and that is siestering on the streets of all of South America. You won't find me there. That's quite an expansive range. You ain't gonna find me there.
Big place.
Exactly. I'm just nullifying out the options. It makes it easier. But I'll tell you where you can find me. I have a distinctive name, @Carl_Poranic. You'll probably find me there. Whether that is on an Instagram, TikTok, fax machine, carrier, pigeon, or other forms of exotic medias, that is where you will find me. But all that remains for me to say is hit follow, hit subscribe, but more importantly, you have just joined a scintillating spectacle round Spa. And from me and Tom, we can't wait to see you for the next one. It's been all out action, but for now at least, thank you all so much for watching. Take care of yourselves out there. Good night.